Okay, hello. This is Man Alone, and I am alone. We are going to continue on our solo role playing adventure, which combines the rules and setup of Star Trek Adventures Captain's Log with the Warhammer 40K universe. And we're using Wrath and Glory, the Warhammer 40K tabletop RPG book, as a bit of a guide. We're using the system in it, the Gilead system. Maybe we'll use some characters, but we're not limiting ourselves to that. We're going to be in the Warhammer universe, but can be creative with it. We're not going to be limited to the fiction in here, but I would consider this role-playing outing a combination of these primarily. So I'm going to very carefully put the Star Trek book on the stand so that I can reference it throughout play. And before we begin with episode 2 of actual play, I just wanted to show you some other things that I have used or am thinking about using or just think are cool. So first of all, I want to say that I will shout this out in the description. I forgot who it was who wrote a comment on my first video recommending that I check out Harper's Quest 2. I got that today in the mail. It's a solo RPG from Joy Peddler Games. It included a character sheet in here that I'm going to make some copies of. Really excited about this. Anytime that I could flip through a 35-page thing and I'm seeing lots of good illustrations, tons of really good D66 tables here with tons of ideas. I haven't fully explored this yet, but I like the setup. I like how they kind of keep it simple with the oracles, but then make it so that it gives you lots of options. So I'm probably going to at some point do a review of this by itself, if not like a mini playthrough. But we'll get to that in a separate video, because I think just because I'm kind of long-term doing this, I mean, I don't know how long-term, but longer than one video, certainly. I don't want to completely stop looking at the other stuff that is out there and looks cool. Speaking of looks cool, I did take these pictures just so people could see. This is like the basic setup that I use. I know that when I was thinking about starting a YouTube channel, I'm quite YouTube naive, and so I had to kind of piece this together. I think that I probably don't have the most perfect setup that I can, but I have a wireless trackpad, a wireless keyboard to the left. I keep my computer to the right, as well as other books. I use the stand over there to look at larger books, so I don't have to hold those on my lap, and I just use a basic bendy, if you can kind of see it in front of the magnifying glass light, I use like a basic bendy stand where I put my iPhone and then just connect that to my computer and use OBS. So I just thought that I would share that. Might be interesting to somebody, might be interesting to nobody. I'm getting more handy with the OBS. I have some different ideas of how to do stuff, and eventually I hopefully will maybe get an overlay made. They have people on Fiverr and stuff that make these overlays specifically for this, but this works for me right now. I don't need much more than this. So yeah, just a little behind the scenes. Let's see if I can. Okay. So I showed this on the first episode as well. This is Geek Gamer's Solo Game Master's Guide. And one of the things I just wanted to point out in here is in the back, she uses, let's see here. There's, like I said, there's some essays, but if you watch Geek Gamer's videos, she uses like this little tiny leather wallet full of these quick oracles, and she includes a lot of them in the appendices here. These are the sort of random tables, and I think just once again, there's just such great value in this book. This is tables for connection and disconnection, quick tables for starting with no rule set or no setting, character attitudes. So these can be used in any role-playing game setting. So again, if you're thinking about getting into solo gaming, this would be a good place to start, or a good place to start would just be just start doing it. I had mentioned also I had Delve, and that Anna Blackwell from Blackwell Games also has 2 other solo games, one of which is right here. This is Umbra, and there's also Rise. And again, this art style that I've really come to love. It's kind of like art style that I wish I was able to do. There's no reason I can't do it, but just such good use of like negative or black space. And another RPG that uses playing cards, and has used grid paper to build sort of a space station. And then you need to recruit soldiers. There's building mechanics. I mean, it's pretty wild that, in my solo RPG that I'm making, it's, I would say it has as much content, but mine is like 118 pages by now. And so I just think it's a real talent when somebody is able to fit so much stuff in such a small space. So she just has tables here on anomalies and spaceships and remnants and natural formations. And I was thinking, at some point, I'm going to look through this a little more. Maybe I could use some of these tables, modify them a little bit. And so I figured, why not keep handy right here my Coca-Cola playing card deck, just in case I want to use something, because this actually uses a playing card randomized system rather than dice. So check that out. It cost me $10 at my friendly local game store. Your mileage may vary online. And then the last thing I wanted to point out that I'm also more and more, I think, going to be using just to incorporate different ideas here is Death in Space. This is a Stockholm Cartel book. When it first came out, people said, oh, it's kind of like Mork Borg in space. I think that's unfair to this. First of all, even though it is the same publishing company, Stockholm Cartel, it's a Free League Workshop game. And I think some of the Mork Borg guys did collaborate on this. But I think it really stands up on its own. And first of all, it has like this holographic cover and back. Which is always, anything from Stockholm Cartel has extremely compelling art. Again, a lot of use of negative space and a collapsing universe. The vast blackness of space is collapsing in a slow grind towards eternal nothingness. So yeah, I think there's lots of stuff in here that could fit into a grimdark setting. And so this could be something that if I want to look up traits or backgrounds or what's a person's motivation, this is another tool set that I can use. Again, this is one of those RPG books that I think the game is really good, but hell, just having this book to look at is just so, how something can be just so coherent and gorgeous and simple. It really is inspirational to me, from a game developing standpoint. So I encourage you to take a look at that, a kind of grimdark thing. And I want to talk about grimdarkness a little bit and where we left off on the last playthrough. Now, that was episode 1 of actual playthrough. And I think I was really happy with a lot of things in that. I think we set up some really good, interesting possibilities. I'm still getting used to the dice roll system in this game. I'm still getting used to how and when to do tasks. Might hopefully try combat soon, see how that goes. But it's a learning experience every step of the way. But the reason that I'm kind of charging forward brazenly is because I just think there is a lot of solo RPG play on YouTube where people get to character creation and then they do a little bit of world building and then they say, oh, now wouldn't it be nice to play this game? But they don't play it. That's not to say nobody does, but a lot of them do not. And so I think that was very discouraging to me when I first started down this path. And so I went with this sort of perfect is the enemy of good. And I just started playing. And one of the things that I like to do is treat the first playthrough as sort of a pilot episode. Okay. And on a pilot episode, right, the producers might come down and say, hey, that was great, keep everything as is. Or they might come down and say, this character didn't work, or this actor didn't work, or whatever it was. And we can edit that, and that's no problem. I don't want to get in the habit of that between episodes, to just be like, oh, we'll just act like this didn't happen or erase this. There might be some editing that's necessary to keep things coherent. For instance, in the first episode, I confused the name of my navigator and my apothecary chirurgeon. While I was speaking to the chirurgeon, I started calling him Calaxis. And that's okay. I just, we could just move on from that. That's expected when you're first playing. But as I thought about it afterwards, and especially as I listened through it, I really do think one thing that I do want to change is the tone. And I think the story that we have set up so far is totally fine. I think that we can roll with this. We don't have to change a thing about the story. But if there was a knob for grim darkness, right? Because this is all about the grim dark of the far future. As it always says in front of all these books, this is a dark and terrible era where you will find little comfort or hope. Forget the power of technology and science. Forget the promise of progress and advancement. Forget any notion of common humanity or compassion. There is no peace amongst the stars, for in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And I thought about that, and I realized I have been playing a lot of 5e and other solo games lately that have more of a whimsical, soft landing sort of approach, and that is just not Warhammer. Okay, now that doesn't mean that every second of this has to be brutal and gory and chaotic, but it does mean that the captains or the Inquisitor in this is not going to think like a Starfleet captain. And I think I was getting my wires crossed a little bit since I was working from the Star Trek book and combining it like this. And so I just want to toggle the characters a little bit. Everyone's background, I think, can stay the same. But I am also going to make one change as far as the actual, let's see here, the actual name of my Inquisitor. Even though I do love that French spelling of it, I just am having a hard time saying it each time. It has a weird glottal stop in the middle of it that it's weird for me. It's not weird for everybody. But I keep getting tripped up on that. And so I am going to change that. And I found online a random Warhammer name generator, and there's a section for Inquisitors, and what I came up with was Conrad de Lionel, which I think that very much sounds like an Inquisitor's name. And you all could try this as well if you'd like sometime. I think it's kind of hilarious. This one is just for like any Imperial citizen. And I'm planning on having a psyker in my retinue. I think that's going to come up in the story. And so this name was just perfect. Her name's Lectra Voltec. But if you can generate Giselwyn von Bale, Emil Noir Bast, Dissa al Shahumim, right? And so I am going to make that change. I am going to make the change in terms of my Inquisitor's name. And I'm also going to make a change just in the overall tone of some of the characters. Again, this is okay. This is part of solo role-playing, is to consider these things. In fact, I think that's where like new neural circuitry is really made, is when you're sitting there thinking about what works, what's real, what makes for a good story. And so if I can remember this, because there's no real way to write this down, so I just was like speaking it to myself earlier. We have our Inquisitor, whose now name is Conrad de Lionel, and he sort of had a Corsairish sort of voice, like, we have to land on the planet and make sure that no one's around. And I think I'm going to bring that down a few octaves, and I'm going to make him more certain. So I think Conrad is going to be like, we need to find a place to land, and we need to find it soon. Okay. And then the Chirurgeon, again, going into the grimdark. I like our friend. Let's see. Let me just bring up the ship crew here. I have like a separate thing for my retinue. Good. So the navigator we haven't met yet. That's Calaxis Miro. The pirate Endra Lark. I did have a little bit of a misfire on this, and I want to reorient myself to that. So originally I thought this would kind of be a swashbuckling pilot, a bit like a Carathrace, a Starbuck, whatever Oscar Isaac's character is named is in the new Star Trek or Star Wars. Why did I forget that? And it ended up being kind of like an eager to please teenager type. And again, this was like a little bit of like Wesley Crusher, maybe. Again, getting those wires crossed because it was the first playthrough. I was sort of trying to balance the reality of both those universes at the same time. So Conrad, again, is going to be like, Endra, bring up on the front screen our options. And then Endra is going to say, right away, here they are. You want me to blow them out of the sky now? Right? Determined, brazen, kind of something we would expect from an Imperial agent who is a pilot of a ship with an Inquisitor on it, right? Someone who has zeal, maybe too much zeal, okay? But I think we're going to get rid of the sort of childish Endrilark, okay? And Romeus Belial, who was the Chirurgeon. I like it as sort of a mentoring type. His voice was like, yes, of course, my lord. Remember that all Inquisitors face. And I think that that's fine. We could have a sort of mentoring relationship. But it's also important to remember that Chirurgeons are... Now, Chirurgeons are doctors, right? And some of them are straight up doctors. Many of them are, right? Especially in the Imperium. But these are also individuals who maybe have different limbs attached to them so that they can do surgeries. Maybe some of them feel that it would be okay to do surgeries on several hundred people just to figure out how to attach a hand to somebody's forehead or something, right? And so to reflect that, I think our friend Romeus is going to sound less like, yes, my lord, and more like, yes, my lord, of course. And we do understand that fatalities may be a part of it, but there is no single soul that compares to the importance of protecting the Emperor's Imperium. Right? And then Lectra Voltec, we'll see. I'll try to come up with that if we meet Lectra Voltec. But yeah, those are the changes. So that was the pilot episode. Again, the producers came down in the form of me sitting in my car today and thinking about this and saying, I think I'm making Star Trek characters here. I need to make some Warhammer characters. Okay. So, where we left off, let's see if we can find... Yeah, here we go. So, Inquisitor's log. Let's see if I can find this here. Okay. So we started out, just a reminder that where we started, we were translating from the warp. I had just gotten my Inquisitorial Rosette, and right as we translated from real space into the warp, the Geller fields failed with a spark, knocked out my navigator almost immediately, but before he completely faded away, found one exit from the warp, and we arrived where we are now, which we're not really sure where that is. We hid behind some sort of meteor, or I guess it would be an asteroid, to find some cover to figure out what to do. And we were able to auspex scan a nearby planet and found some water on it and made contact with that planet. And initially, they did not want us to be there. But then, sensing that we had few other options, I changed my tune a little bit and said that we have, a cache of weapons for them. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure, so we'll see. But yeah, we could start with this log, which I named supplemental only because normally I think we would do more tasks than just one. Okay, so before we get into it, I want to make sure I'm recording. Okay. We are in near orbit of a supposedly imperial planet called Enoch, where we have received a welcome that is considerably less than warm. As we speak, my inquisitorial sage is looking for a record of this, along with the Gilead system of which we are scantily aware. Our options are dwindling, and this planet has indicated use of lethal force should we deviate from our stated intentions. Had I been able to return to the Sol system as planned, I would be in a more war-worthy vessel. Instead, I'm on an inquisitorial black ship. By no means a skiff, but also not one that holds a significant threat. The transition from the warp has left our vessel Eisenberg intact but worse for wear. We need a resupply and maintenance, as well as a place to dock that is on safer soil. I've bought us some time by promising a cache of weapons in exchange for safe landing. I had hoped to merely make the offer so that Calaxus could awake and find safe passage out of this system, but alas, our navigator is yet to rise despite the efforts of Romeus. We proceed slowly toward the planet as I consider my options. Okay, so I'm on the bridge. I'm there with my pilot, Endra. Probably got my arms crossed. I'm pacing. I can see the sort of curvature of the planet approaching more quickly. And I request over comms for Romeus, and I say, Chief Medicaid Romeus, report to the bridge. I need the status report on Calaxus. And I think actually it'd be chirurgeon, not Medicaid. But then I turn towards Endra and I say, how long until we're able to dock at this planet? My lord, at current speed, we will dock there in approximately 15 minutes. 15 minutes. If Calaxus should awake, then that would mean that we will maybe be able to call upon this navigator to find us a warp passage out of here. And at this point, Romeus comes into the bridge. Yes, my lord. Romeus, tell me, what is the status of Calaxus? So actually, I'll roll to see what the status of Calaxus is. I think Calaxus is pretty messed up. To give a little bit of background, and I learned this so we could add this in. Let me switch off this. The events of Wrath and Glory here take place pretty soon after the Cicatrix Maledictum, right? So the Imperium is split in half. And so this is, if this was caused by the Cicatrix Maledictum, this is a huge astral warp event. And so I would think that my navigator would be pretty messed up about this. So let's see here. Let's roll. Let's go with improbable. So a yes is 1 to 5 and a no is 6 to 20. Okay, 12. All right. So let's see. So Calaxus is not awake, and if we can find maybe complications here, 269. What is a complication? Let's say... let's just roll and see what it says. Okay, 15. Overworked crew. This crew is too busy working on different crises, and the ship and resources are suddenly stretched thin. So what would that mean for the navigator? Well, I mean, the navigator, yeah, it's like an overworked. But instead of like a computer being fried, what would... Okay, so Romeus says, "Yes, my lord." Romeus, tell me good news of Calaxis. Of news I can share, one that is both good but not without complication. We have little time. In less than 15 minutes we have to dock. I need to know. Well, he is awake, but he's not present. What does this mean? Well, he was overwhelmed by the power of the warp. There was some sort of event. My understanding only applies to the physical body, and I'm not allowed to cut Calaxis open, and as such, I can only base upon my observations what I see. And what are your observations? Well, he is speaking in some sort of cryptic tongue. Cryptic tongue. Is tainted by the warp? It's too early to say, my lord, but clearly the navigators play with powers beyond what those without the vision are able to handle. So, so this is his brain. I'm thinking his brain got fried, like almost like defragmented. So then I'm walking down. I walk down the corridor to see Calaxis, and Calaxis is sitting there, and I'm thinking maybe he's just like somebody who, eyes wide and has seen things that the human mind just cannot see, right? Like, it's sort of eldritch in that way, right? There's been some sort of encounter, even for a navigator, some sort of approachment of knowledge that is forbidden or is not designed for humans to grok. And so I lean over, put a hand on his shoulder. Calaxis, man, are you with us? And Calaxis is maybe staring beyond me and saying, which, by the way, I don't know what any of that means. It's just me making up sounds, but this is clear that there's some sort of tongue being spoken here. I don't know if this is Calaxis's language of his home planet or if this is some sort of arcane language or something. But my grip on his shoulder turns just a bit pinching, and he doesn't notice it just because I can't even handle my frustration. And so then I look back at Romeus and I say, he's useless like this. And Romeus says, well, no human body is completely useless. And I just shake my head because, you can always count on a chirurgeon to look at it as an excuse for organ harvesting or experimentation or whatever like that. So I think I am going to pace back and forth a little bit more, and then I'm going to say, bring me the psyker. All right, and so now let's talk. We named the psyker. Let's take a look. We have a psyker, Electrovoltec, which I really love. And Electrovoltec, let's see, a trait here on the, this is the Solo Game Master Guide. Let's see. Let's find some, just to get a sense of what Lectra is like. I could say with that name, I can imagine a little bit what this person's like. Descriptive words, character attitudes. All right, so this is a 2d6 actually. Let me just grab this. And let's see what I got here. 6. So, curious. Or is that a 6 and 5? Misunderstood. Okay. All right. Misunderstood, I like. All right. So, bring me the psycho. And I say, Lectra. Yes, my lord. I need to tell you something, and I need to tell it quickly to you, and it is confidential. But of course, anything you say stays inside my head. And I say, the navigator has... I look at Romeus to try and figure out a euphemism. I say, is having difficulties maintaining a connection of vision with the warp. And the Lectra says, is that right? Pity that. Well, how can I help? And that's exactly it. I would like you to see, using your psychic connection, if you have any possibility of seeing our way through the warp storm and finding a way out of here. No can do. That's not the kind of psycho I am. Navigation, well, that's outside of my pay grade. So I think there was a psychic powers thing in here. So the navigator gene is rare. So I know that not every psyker can do that. But let's see if we can roll and find out what kind of psychic power Lectra does have. Let's see here. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a D8. Do I have a D8? Let's see. D8's always kind of... Oh, yeah, I think this is a D8. All right. All right. So we'll say divination, predicting or reading the future. Divination again. Okay. And telepathy, manipulating the mind. So I rolled a 2 and a 5. So we'll do divination and telepathy. So, and let's just make sure those, like, I think right on these pages right here, it kind of says which of these are belong to what. So divination would have, let's probably be, the psyker's not very powerful yet. So let's say there's like forewarning and the beginnings of prescience. And telepathy, fog the mind probe, psychic shriek. And then we have some like minor psychic powers to look at here as well that we can maybe call upon. Okay. So let's just say, Lectra says, well, me lord, my talents lie in divination. And also... divination. Very good. Can you tell us how we will resolve this situation? Well, divination's a fickle thing. I'll tell you what, my lord. I can get you a prophecy in, let's say, because it's you, 48 hours. And I just kind of look at Lectra, and Lectra is truly smiling, as if nothing that was just said is wrong. We're less, probably 10 minutes away from the planet right now. And this is maybe why Lectra is misunderstood, because Lectra is not fully understanding the gravity of situations. And I say, Lectra, do you understand that the lives of this crew may be on the line? I need you to do whatever divination you can do right now. So let's actually do a task with that. And so I am going to, let's take a look here. And sorry, I still am having trouble figuring out how to. Okay, so since this is not my character, we could use. You know what? I actually think that I have a better Inquisitor's log. Yeah, actually I do. I updated it. Okay. So, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I changed some of the things, and I also was able to take off that thing that said that the ship was injured. Let me see how difficult this would be to change the source of this. Inquisitor log. Oh boy. Oh, okay. Yeah, but how's that? Oh, wow. Okay. Hey, I hope you can see that. Great. And let me do it as well in the stat sheet. Inquisitor log updated. Great. Okay. So we can minimize this one here. And we'll do the stat sheet. Let's see if I can just make this a little bit bigger for us. There we go. Okay. So, first of all, let me just fill in here. I'm going to call this person Lectra Volta. And this is a sanctioned psyker. This is someone that the Imperium has determined can be use psychic powers and not be like burned, have their soul burned and fed to the corpse emperor. And they are misunderstood and sort of miss the point sometimes. And they're able to do divination and prophecy. So I'm just going to put this here, div and actually telepathy would be the other one. Okay, and let me change the name here. Conrad D. Lionel. Okay. So I did also change one of the stats. Instead of security, again, I found that kind of Star Trek. I made that into just warfare. And so that could be if we are doing war on the ship or if there's like a breach or anything like that. And then I added a stat of fellowship because I had separate categories for Adeptus Mechanicus and engineering. And even though I had a justification for that, when I rewatched the video, I said, that's kind of weak. I think we can merge those. And so the fellowship is how well our crew is getting along. And we have the Eisenberg, which is an inquisitorial black ship. This is a ship that I rolled up that is not the usual Inquisitor ship, right? The usual Inquisitor ship is going to be a strike cruiser. It's going to be decked out. It's going to have tons of weapons. The black ship's an older model. It's more used for stealth or transport. Now, it's still an Imperial ship, and it's still an Inquisitor's ship, so it's no slouch, but it's not going to be able to have the firepower that a strike cruiser is going to have. It does have a short-term stealth shield. It can be kind of fast and durable. All right. So I will say, why don't we use, I just don't want to use a perception, my perception. I don't know if that's right. So why don't I try this? Why don't I combine these two and say navigation plus presence. Let's try that out. Navigation plus presence, so that's going to be 14. So I need to roll at least one die that is equal to or less than 14. Okay, so both of them. Very good. So Lectra is, I keep wanting to say Kendra. Lectra, she is able to do a divination. And actually, I did not plan this. I use these as like a little stack here, but why don't we say the Emperor's Tarot? Let's try that out. Just do a quick shuffle. This is my actual tarot deck, so I don't want to make sure that we actually at least shuffle it 4 times. Okay. See what we can get out of this. And I'm going to remember this to see if we can, in some way, what this prophecy will mean. So Lectra says, all right, well, 10 minutes. You get what you pay for. I'll try my best. I'll have to use the Emperor's Tarot. So shuffling. 4. And we shall just knock. We'll do Knight of Wands. Okay. 2 of Pentacles and the Hanged Man. All right, so probably what we're looking at here, you know, the Wands is going to be a sort of a fire, is the fire archetype. The Wands are often indicative of like charging in. They're about passion. They're about taking, what would we say? Taking control or seizing the day, right? And they're about going by your heart rather by your mind. But it's also in the back, we have, you know, the pyramids or the mounds right there, which has this connotation of departure or flight, right? So the knight here is not on a warlike errand. That's the thing about the Knight of Wands. There's a passion here, charging in, but there is not not into battle, not with a sword. Okay. And then we have the 2 of Pentacles or the 2 of Discs. Now, discs are always going to mean of this world, you know, stuff like wealth, stuff like power, stuff like popularity, stuff like community standing. And so that always has to be taken into account also when it is reversed. Because when it's reversed, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but there's something in discord here a little bit, right? There's something that might be a little bit off or a little bit like not adjusted. And so there's a juggling going on of these two pentacles, and it's like a dance, and it's the infinity sign, honestly, as well. And so this is like something like fun. This actually is related to performance, which is one of my focuses is performer. So there's a bit of a flair to what I do. So that might be it. Maybe right now I'm thinking about charging into battle, but I really need to be charging into something else. And maybe I'm not calling upon this part of myself that has to do with performance and flair. And then finally, the Hangman is a very misunderstood card because it's a person who's being hanged, but they're upside down and they're smiling. And so usually this means sacrifice, circumspection, letting go of something and finding something new, or just like wisdom. And so that's actually a pretty good tarot reading to get in this situation. And I say to Lectra, all right, what does it mean? Now that I am not so clear about, but just knowing what I know, I would say that somebody here is thinking about doing something with guns, and maybe try not to use so many guns. And so we can interpret that in like a couple different ways, right? We can interpret that as we should not hand over this cache of weapons. We should use something else. We should try to seek diplomacy instead of outright warfare. And there's something about maybe like performance. Okay. So let me see actually if there is a psychic power that I'm thinking of. Oh, yeah. Inflict pain. All right. All right. So I am going to attempt to make an impression here. And I think I'm going to call upon my presence or ingenuity. Well, let's do presence. My presence and my command, so 13. All right. Yeah, because I already came up with the idea. So it's more this. When I tell you what I'm gonna do here, we'll see if this works. All right. Okay. So we got a 9. That'll do it, and a 15, but that's okay. We needed just one of them. Okay. So this will work. And what I'm going to say is, okay. I say to the pilot, I say, oh my God, we have Endra and Lectra. That's why I'm so confused. Okay. So I say Endra, or I say, Locke. Yes, Captain. Yes, Inquisitor. Locke, I want you to speed up. I want our landing to be definitive. I do not want to approach slowly. I do not want to approach with any hint of hesitation or discernment. I think we need to charge into this battle. Should I ready the battle cannons, Captain? Oh, I like this. Maybe a little Irish accent. Should I ready the battle cannons, Captain? No. Don't put any laser guns out until we land, and I give you the sign. And so they land, and what I'm gonna do is, right, if we remember, they were gonna send a team to the ship. They said, you can land. We'll take your word for it that you have a bunch of guns to give us, but we need to, don't come off your ship, and we'll come on your ship first and investigate it and make sure everything's there, and then only then. And since, you know, I'm an Inquisitor, I know how these things go. In all likelihood, what they'll probably think they're going to do right now is, especially since this world didn't immediately respect the authority of an Inquisitor, even after scanning the ship, is they're probably going to try to take the stuff and then kill us. So I already know that, right? I'm not stupid. Yes, I just became an Inquisitor, but I've probably been an inquisitorial, recruit or novice for, a decade, right? So I know what's going on. And so what I say is, let's see. I say, Lectra, you said besides divination, is there any other type of psyching that you do? Do you have any other sort of psyker powers? And Lectra's like, well, I do have telepathy. And again, I kind of look at Lectra as if to say, like, why did you lead with divination, if telepathy was on the table? And I say, all right. Are you able to change a person's mind? I think that would actually be pretty difficult for Lectra, so I'm going to do a task on that as well. And I think that's somewhat improbable, especially I'm going to say that is improbable. So I'll go here. Yeah, so 6, no. Change your minds? No.
maybe I can get them to like something that they didn't like before.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there was this fella, and I knew him. He never once in his life liked garlic. But after I got in his head, and I made him love garlic.
So again, my character's like, Lectra, I need you to focus right now. Can you change someone's mind?
No. But I can make them hurt.
What do you mean by that?
I can make them hurt. I could make them feel pain. Sometimes that changes their mind, but basically it just changes their mind from saying, yes, I want to do something, to no, I don't want to do it because I'm in pain.
All right. Perfect. When I open the door to allow their investigation team in, I want you to do exactly as I say. All right. And so what happens here is I already did the task check for this. So we'll see if anything goes wrong. But I think we could play this out without engaging in combat just yet. But we'll see. So what's going to happen is we're going to land. Okay. We land. We see the team there. It's probably got about 6 people. They're armed. They do look like they have Imperial weaponry, but it's kind of beleaguered, right? Their uniforms are kind of dirty. Astra Militarum. Normally you have some pull with the Astra Militarum because you did help one of their commanding officers once with cryosleep, but since you're cut off from the Imperium, it's unlikely any of them would know that. And what's going to happen is you are going to open the door, and you're going to act like an Inquisitor, right? Because again, they don't respect your authority. The authority comes from the Inquisitor. The authority does not, yes, they act on behalf of the Emperor, but you know that in order to make your point here, you need to respect the power that emanates from you. And so you are sort of taking a flama, right? A little flamethrower. And I wonder if we can find a little picture of that in here. I wouldn't mind that. Let's see how good the index is. Flame weapons, 219. Perfect. Let's take a look at this. So, all right, Melta. That's right, Melta weapons. So you're gonna take like let's see, an Inferno pistol, and you tell Lectra that when they open the door, what you need her to do is to make every single one of the soldiers, there we go, that could be a flamer, a Melta. You want every single one of the soldiers except one, you want her to put them in pain. Can you do that, Lectra?
Oh, sure. I can't hold it for very long. How long do you need it?
I need it only for a short time, 30 seconds.
You got it, boss.
And so what's going to happen, and I'll kind of just put out just like a little diagram of this so everyone understands it. We got, so maybe let's say that the ship is right here, and I am coming off the ship, right? Lectra is next to me, and I have directed Lectra here to put all of these different individuals in agonizing pain. Okay. Now Lectra doesn't know why, but I have an idea. And then just in case I need to play this out, I might as well give them numbers now. And then let this guy come forward. And I'd say to Lectra, countdown from 10. when you get to 1, I want you to open the door and make them hurt. So she starts counting down from 10, and you put on sort of like a glove. She doesn't really understand what you're doing. You put on like a glove that's like a glove that a blacksmith would use, as they're placing something in the fire, and she doesn't really understand. And then you take off your inquisitorial rosette and you put it on the ground, and as she's counting down 10, 9, 8, she sees you with the melta pistol just shooting it at your rosette. And she's very confused, but just following orders. 3, 2, 1. We open the door. I descend. She comes out, sends out a shockwave of pain. All of these folks, fall to their knees. Grab their heads like this, right? And before this guy even knows what's happening, I am going to charge up to him with my inquisitorial rosette, and I am going to take the ultra hot rosette and push it right onto his face. So it will be on his forehead, across the bridge of his nose, coming down along the mouth. And so all of these people have dropped their weapons, and this guy has this inquisitorial rosette, and it is just absolutely burned into his face. And I throw him to the side, and then maybe all these people, Lectra is still holding them down. I maybe grab this guy, and I say, "Who is in charge on this planet?" And this guy can't really say anything. And I turn back around to Lectra, and she's like,
"Oh, he ain't going to be able to communicate very well for some time now, boss."
And so, fine, I grab this guy who is just like, face is peeling off. I pull the rosette off with a bunch of skin ripping off with it. Right? And I say, "Who is in charge on this planet?" And they say, you Inquisitor scum. Right? Or maybe, no. They say, "You're no Inquisitor. No one. There's no one coming for us. No one." Right? And I just throw this guy to the ground, and I start to walk over, and I grab this other guy, and I start, trying to shake everyone down. And finally, I hear a voice. So let's clear this. I hear a voice, and actually, I wanted to show this because this is going to come into play. This is a Sister of Battle, and this was one of the first models I ever painted, which is not great, but I was so proud of it. And she says, "The Emperor is in control on this planet." And I turn toward this person who I can clearly see is a Sister of Battle. Now, my character, Conrad, is part of the Ordo Malleus, and believe that the Sisters of Battle are the militant wing of the Ordo Malleus, right? Because the Ordo Hereticus would be... No. The Ordo Malleus is the Grey Knights, and the Ordo Xenos is the Death Watch, and then, the Order Hereticus would be the Sisters. But still, the Inquisition maintains a relationship with them. And she says, "The leader of this planet, as all planets, is the Holy Emperor of mankind, beloved by all." And she's got a bolter fixed on you. And she's also got a bunch of other battle sisters behind her, right? So this would be too much of a force to overcome. And at this point, Lectra is not going to be able to do anything. These guys have all scurried away, right? They're sort of low-level grunts. And this Sister of Battle, now she's going to have absolute conviction here. And she says, What sort of Inquisitor comes to a planet and puts everyone in agony, burning into their faces? And I say, did you notice what I burned into his face? And I show the inquisitorial rosette, which once again is almost impossible to replicate, right? Or with great, there would be a great punishment if someone replicated that. And she says, if you are an inquisitor, where did you come from? And I explained to her everything. And she says, when were you inducted into the Ordo Malleus? You know, I'm like giving the credentials because they're trying to ascertain this. These folks look weary, like they've seen some stuff, right? And I tell her the date, and we'll say that's M. What did I have here? Yeah, roughly 7.128.456 M41. And she says that it is, let's say 322.459. So it's 3 years later. And there is a Mechanicus, an Adeptus Mechanicus here, maybe, that says, it is true, Sister, I don't know, Domenica. It is true, Sister Domenica. The Auspex scan of this ship shows that the chronometer is showing 456 as the year M41. And so it's sort of confirmed that we lost 3 years here. Okay. And so now realizing that this could possibly be true, the Battle Sisters put their weapons down and say, if you are here from the Inquisition, then we can waste no more time. We need your help. Come with me. Okay. And I think that we will stop there for today. So we're now on Enoch. We're with the Sister of Battle. We're with our Psyker Electra, who just put the hurt on some folks. And I think, with all this Melta stuff going on, things are really heating up. This is why I'm alone. Thanks, everyone.